So I've got 7 o'clock. Is everybody in the room set?
Ready, Mayor.
CMC set. Very cool. All right, so we are going to call the meeting to order this evening. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Sykesville's Mayor and Town Council. Meeting this evening is Monday, February Heart Day 14th, 2022. We will call the meeting to order precisely at 7 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That moment of silence. Okay, thank you, guys. All right. I'd like to announce that the meeting is also being streamed. For those of you who are not in the room, they're being streamed live by the Carroll Media Center, and it'll be available on their YouTube channel, live as well as in retrospect, and the town's Facebook page will also be available for playback. So we start with public comments. Is there anyone in the audience here this evening wishing to make public comment? Okay. So I'll skip all of that nonsense, if it is nonsense, that comments are worthy of 3 minutes and so on and so forth, since no one's here to make one. And we'll move on to the first agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes for the January 24th meeting. And I'm actually going to just respectfully table this item this evening. I found a few items needing clarification and one minor correction that I sent on to our clerk in the 11th hour, long after her workday was over today. So I'll give her the opportunity to fix that, and then we'll call these back to attention at our next meeting. That brings us to our Chief of Police and his recognition of an officer.
Actually, a citizen first.
A citizen first, so we have multiple recognitions.
Yes,
We're playing catch up, I think.
We are.
Thank
Yes,
you.
We are, and I appreciate your indulgence.
It's my pleasure, Chief. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a very special young lady we're going to recognize tonight. And this incident just occurred on January 27th, and it was brought to my attention by PFC Kirkner, who's here with us tonight. And he mentioned he thought it would be worthy of recognizing her, and I wholeheartedly agree. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase and read from his report. But it all began, I guess, on January 27th at about 8:16 hours. That was a.m., Jason? Morning? Yeah. The state police dispatched Officer Kirkner to assist medics for a female that was in and out of consciousness with children in the house. Officer Kirkner arrived on scene just as ambulance 127 from the Sykesville Freedom Fire Department arrived on the scene. Officer Kirkner contacted an 8-year-old female that said her name was Kira. Right? Come on up, Kira. All right, okay. So when Officer Kirkner contacted Kira, she told the medics and the officers where her mother was in the bathroom on the first floor. And the medics began to assess Miss Long, right? And then Kira was also able to tell the medics what had happened to her mother, as well as her recent surgery and where her mother kept her medications, which is all very, very useful information for the officers and medics to know. So the most amazing part is, with her mother having this health crisis, Kira was able to remain calm, didn't panic. She was actually the one that called 911. And she checked on her mother, and then I should note that the father wasn't home at the time. It was just Kira with her sister Morgan, right? And Kira also did a great job of watching her little sister Morgan, and at the same time answering a multitude of questions, as you can imagine, from the medics and the police officers. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Russell arrived home, Mr. Long, and they were eventually able to transport Miss Long, and she's, as you can see, has made a full and complete recovery. So we thought it was very appropriate to recognize Kira for her bravery and for her maturity, for making that 911 call, being able to tell the officers and the dispatchers what was going on with your mother. And we think you did an amazing job. And what we're going to present you with is what's called a Good Citizen Award. And it basically has a summary here of what we just talked about, how you called 911, how you helped the officers and the medics, and how you helped your mom get better. So, you know, the last line I put in here is, your actions were brave and mature, far beyond your years. So you did an outstanding job, and we want to recognize you for that. We're very proud to have you in our town, and we hope you don't have to call us again. If you do, we'll certainly respond, and we know that you'll have all the information. You'll be able to help us do our jobs and the medics as well. So, great job. We're very proud of you. And I know your parents are as well.
Just as a side note, with being the officer on scene, she had complete control of the scene when I got here. Better than some other people I've seen doing this job in all the years I've done it. She was cool, calm, collect, checking on her mom, checking on her sister, making sure that we had all the right information. Excellent job.
Amazing. Amazing. Very proud of you. And thank you.
Kira,
very
we're
much.
all very proud of you.
Yes, we
Thank you
are.
for being you. Good work. All right. Thank you, Chief, for recognizing Kira. That's fantastic.
Well, thank
Yes.
you, Officer Kirkner, for bringing it to my attention. Sometimes I don't catch all these reports, but he said that this was a good one, and I agree. It's
Good deal.
a very good one.
Thanks, Jason.
You deserve recognition for it. Thank you guys for coming, and feel free to, you don't have to stick around if you don't want to, but thanks again for being here. Coming out on this cold night.
Ugh.
Morgan, thank you for coming too.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so this one's been some time in the making. As you'll recall, we recognize, he's still outside. I'll keep going. We recognize Officer Kirkner and Sergeant Kilgore, I guess a month or two ago, for their life-saving actions at E.W. Beck's restaurant. Well, this incident we're going to talk about tonight actually occurred 2 weeks prior to that, okay? And I'm going to, again, try to paraphrase from this report. Basically, on January 14th, Sergeant Kilgore overheard a call for service being dispatched by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office regarding a suicide with a handgun in progress. Now, this was outside of town, just outside of town, but as you guys know, we do pay attention to these types of calls, and our officers do respond, particularly when there's not other units in the area, and we can get there quicker. So this was certainly a case where they were justified in responding outside of town for a very serious call.
We always are justified, Chief.
You are. And you know, before I get into the meat of this, I just wanted to point out, you guys heard what a tragic weekend it was for law enforcement this past weekend. There was 13 officers killed within a 24-hour period. 13 officers wounded, I should say. Thank God they weren't killed. 13 officers wounded within a 24-hour period, 2 of which were right in Frederick, very close by. If you recall the incident in Phoenix, where 9 officers were actually wounded, this was a very similar situation that we're going to talk about tonight. It was a domestic type situation where there was a barricade, meaning there's somebody inside the residence, either armed or not armed, that didn't want to come out, and it resulted in 9 Phoenix police officers being wounded. So just to give you a little bit of you know, the backstory as to what can happen in these type of events. You know, domestic disputes are one of the most violent encounters law enforcement has to deal with. And this was a very similar situation. So as I said, the call came out for a suicide with a handgun in progress at a residence just outside of town. Information from dispatch revealed that there was a male subject inside the residence along with 2 children and his wife. The male in question was suicidal and had at least 1 handgun, which he had pointed at his own head. Sergeant Kilgore and PFC Kirkner responded and were among the first to arrive on the scene. Shortly after arriving on scene, they obtained their long guns, and as is protocol, started to establish a perimeter to wait for other units to respond. They just don't, you know, rush into a house under those circumstances by themselves. Information again kept coming back from dispatch was that the male party was in the main living area of the residence, and the 2 children, ages 13 and 6, were located upstairs on the 3rd floor. Sergeant Kilgore was also advised that the man's wife was with him and that she had called 911 to request the initial response. It was later learned there was an open 911 line with dispatchers. That's what they're often taught to do, is keep the person on the line, of course. And they were able to hear what was going on in the house, and they were relaying that information to the responding officers. It was reported that the male subject had pointed the loaded handgun at his wife and threatened to kill her, and had placed the barrel of the weapon in his own mouth. So as you can imagine, very volatile situation. Sergeant Kilgore responded to the front of the residence, began to set up a perimeter, as I said. PFC Kirkner responded to the side of an adjacent residence and began to facilitate the evacuation of some of the nearby residents. You had people in houses, very close by, and we had to get them out of the harm's way. The male and the female fled from the rear of their home next door, and they were contacted by one of the troopers that had responded to the scene. PFC Kirkner was able to coordinate the removal of the male and female as they had been directed to leave the area. It should be noted at this time that, again, very volatile situation. We don't know where the bad guy is in the residence, whether he's pointing a weapon outside the residence or, inside. So the officers place themselves in danger by approaching the residence to help evacuate even the neighbors next door. Let's see, moving on. So we had other Carroll County Sheriff's Department responded on the scene as well. And the next step was try to facilitate the removal of the children from inside the house. We learned from dispatch that the children were in upstairs, a third floor. They actually came to the window and began conversing with the officers. I believe Sergeant Kilgore conversed with them. And they actually started to try to crawl out of the third story window to get away. And Sergeant Kilgore, warned them against doing that at this point in time. They later found out that their father was in the back of the residence, so Sergeant Kilgore made the decision to tell the kids to run out of the front of the residence, and which they were able to do. At that point, I believe it was you, Jason, that grabbed the kids from the front of the residence, met them at the front, and got them to safety. So far we've got the neighbors evacuated, we've got 2 of the children out of the house. The next thing was the wife, right? She eventually was able to leave the house as well. Let's see. So as this situation evolves, again, we got everybody to safety at this point and placing our officers at great risk. We were able to find out that the male inside had a cell phone with him, phone number, and we had that phone number. So Sergeant Kilgore attempted to call the party inside the house, didn't answer. I think after maybe the fifth attempt, he finally did answer. Sergeant Kilgore had a conversation with the guy, was eventually able to talk him into surrendering his weapon, coming out of the house with his hands in the air. And in the end, the situation was resolved peacefully. No one was injured. It was validated the person did have a gun inside the house and was intent on carrying out a tragedy. So it's really these 2 officers, as well as others from both the county and the state police, that caused this whole thing to come to a very peaceful resolution. And again, with them placing their lives at risk, I decided that they should receive the highest honor that we can give here locally, which is the Award of Valor. I'll read to you what it says, and I think you'll agree it's an appropriate award. The Valor Award may be given to an employee who has shown and performed in the line of duty an act involving great risk to their own personal safety and welfare to help another. Examples would be life-threatening or acts performed under extreme emergency situations. I think in this particular case, it's very appropriate that they receive this award, and be one more medal for Sergeant Kilgore to wear, if he can find room for it, and a medal for PFC Kirkner to wear. So I'd ask them both to come up at this point in time. Again, I've given them a certificate which basically outlines the details of what we just talked about, the Award of Valor presented to Sergeant Kilgore, along with the medal that goes on his uniform, as well as one for PFC Kirkner. So it seems like whenever you 2 guys work together, good things usually happen, and that's the real important message here, is this could have turned bad, just like the one in Phoenix, and we could be going to a funeral instead of, we could have been going to a funeral instead of being able to present these guys with awards. So very proud of them both, and happy to have them on the team here, and look forward to great things from you both in the future. So.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back to work. Stay warm.
Yeah.
And safe, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Chief, I don't know how any of us are supposed to follow any of that.
Should have had that at the end. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, that's enough for tonight. Thank you so much, Chief, for bringing that to the public's attention. That's both of those situations.
It's the least I can do is recognize them when they do good things.
Yeah, well, that's all the time, so you'd be up there quite often if we'd let you, so thank you again. All right, that brings us to new business, which includes a proclamation for Steve Enslow's service contributions. And you may notice, those of us at the table here, that Steve is not in the audience this evening. I plan to read this without embarrassing him because he's not in the room, but I do want to read it all, and I want to do that because I think everybody here at the table has some understanding and a very much appreciation of the role that Steve has held for quite some time here as one of our most steadfast volunteers. So let me just read the proclamation here. Town of Sykesville proclamation dated February 14th, 2022. Whereas the town of Sykesville established a planning commission in 1987. The planning commission consists of 6 volunteer members and 1 council member. And whereas Steve Enslow has served on the planning commission since June 9th, 2003, and as chairperson of the commission since December 4, 2006, for a total of 19 years. And whereas Stephen Enslow has reviewed and provided his expertise on numerous projects that came before the Planning Commission, including multiple annexation requests, zoning changes, 2 comprehensive plan updates, and the Warfield development process. And whereas Steve Enslow has been personally involved in every aspect of the Planning Commission, from reviewing documents prior to the meetings, touring sites and locations, attending monthly meetings, and quite a few additional meetings, providing feedback to applicants and developers, and ensuring all questions are answered and approved plans follow through to completion. And whereas Steve Enslow's actions demonstrate the highest degree of community service. Now therefore we, the mayor and town council of the town of Sykesville, do hereby proclaim our gratitude to Stephen Enslow for his commitment and service to the citizens of the town of Sykesville, proclaimed this 14th day of February in the year 2022. So if he were here, I'd give him a round of applause, so let's do that. And I have a strong feeling that this will be presented to him in person at the Planning Commission meeting in March. So everyone and anyone that sees Steve, make sure you shake his hand and tell him thank you. And thank you for coming up with the proclamation, sir. All right. The next item of business is the appointment of Steve Enslow to the alternate position on the Planning Commission. So I will need, let me just real quick, I believe that's a 5-year term. It is listed here. That alternate position on the Planning Commission is a 5-year term, which would expire February 2027. So if I have can I have a motion for that appointment?
I'll make a motion to nominate Steve Enslow for the alternative position of Planning Commission for a 5-year term expiring 2027.
Second.
All right, great. Thanks. Councilman Grassley with the first, and we'll give that one to Councilman Mark Dyer. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's everyone. That's a unanimous approval for the appointment of Steve Enslow to the alternate position of the Planning Commission. All right, that brings us to our third item of new business, which is to consider, discuss, and act on resolution number 2022-01, the zoning map. And This item is basically in response to the 2021 annexation of the property off of Schoolhouse Road. The town worked with members of the Carroll County Planning and GIS departments to create an updated zoning map to represent the new corporate boundaries and parcels added through that annexation. And I'll say that our town planner, Kevin, is here with us this evening. If any of the council has any questions for Kevin regarding our new map, which is shown brightly and cheerfully on the screen and also displayed here in the chambers.
So not a question, but a comment that came from the planning commission. There were no comments from the planning commission. So if anyone is wondering what they thought in terms of this, they were very pleased.
Awesome. And I believe one thing to note is that something that I had learned at the planning commission meeting is that the historic district boundaries had fallen off of the previous version of this zoning map and have been added back by our planner. Any other comments from staff?
No, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. So that brings us to the need to, let me get back to my agenda, to approve this resolution number 2022-01 town zoning map. May I have a motion?
I'll motion that we move forward with resolution 2022-01 town zoning map.
Thank you, Councilman
Second.
Schofield. And Council President Carter seconds. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That was everybody. All right, unanimously approved and passed resolution number 2022-01 town zoning map. All right, that's all the new business. For announcements and reports, I'll start with the first announcement that the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 28th, 2022, and that we have volunteer opportunities available at the Historic District Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, Police Auxiliary, and Crossing Guard. Anyone interested in learning more information about these volunteering positions, please email town@sykesville.net. That brings us to staff updates, and our treasurer, Craig, is here this evening. You're up, Craig, please, and thank you.
Chief, thanks. Had a nice write-up, and now I don't know if I want to bore you guys.
Oh. We're moving along so quickly.
It's so dull, I don't know.
Yeah, but we need some of that.
Compared to what that.
Let's do it.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council, and the Cupids out there.
Craig, thank you.
At this time, I'd like to present the January Treasury's report. Before I do, I just want to quickly let you guys know that the audit of the fiscal year 21 is now complete. It took a little longer than usual, but we did get it done. And then the auditors are going to come in here on March 14th to present the audit report, which I'm sure you guys will be excited about.
That's my favorite
In
meeting.
anticipation I'd have sleepless nights, so that'll be really good. In terms of the January report, I have inputted all the budget amendments, which not a ton, but I did get them in there just to let you know. The 138,500 is in that report, so in case you were looking at that. In terms of like last month, I talked about the real estate tax. We got a nice $500,000 payment. So you can see we're basically at budget right now. In fact, we got a $19,000 check last week in that bucket, which obviously we're at budget right now. So drop the mic on that. Bam! A little further down with the intergovernment revenue. Obviously, we're behind right now, but a lot of those buckets tend to come in much later, especially the income tax state. We're not going to see that till like May, June, so that's probably going to hang out like that for quite a while. The highway user, we're only through October, so we've got a ways to go there. The state aid, the SAP, is quarterly, so we've gotten 2 quarterly payments, so we got 2 more. By the way, I did get a note to say that all my documents have been approved for the next year's grant, so they haven't told us how much yet. But, so we got that coming on, so that's good. In terms of the expenditures, nothing glaring. I don't know if you guys had a chance to really, dive in, but I think all expenses are tracking as expected. I'm not really, worried about too much you can't see here, but a decent gauge I like to use. The budget's like about 3.7 million in terms of expenses. We've gone 7 months now. So I usually like just take a quick percentage, 7/12, which is 58.33%. And then the budget's like I said, 3.7 million. So that percentage comes out to about 2.1 million. And right now our actual expenses are 2,079,000. So we're like pretty much right in the slot. It's not exact specific science because obviously there's some expenses that don't occur every month, but I always like to use that gauge just to kind of get a good feel of what, you know, the year looks like. So yeah, if you guys want to do that next month, that'd be my 2/3 mark, 8 months out of 12, that'd be good. In terms of the check register report, there was only 2 expenses you may not or would wonder about, which was the Moxley welding. Good, Derek's here. Came out, it was a capital outlay for the, I'll just read this since I don't even know what the hell it is. The central hydraulic system repair for the plow retrofit. So that was 17 grand. What is that? What's it?
If you can't dazzle them with brilliant.
It's just a new plow in the front of it. I mean, a new one.
It's an upgrade to the hydraulic system on the big truck.
So allows it to lower.
Well, no, the old system was outdated and parts were becoming obsolete, so we updated to something that we can fix if we need to.
Oh, gotcha. All right, makes sense. They'll ask me again next month. And then Seven Springs was there for about 20 grand, which is, I won't say rare, but that's a lot of money for Seven Springs landscaping. But it was for, obviously, we're doing a lot of general beautification projects. And we did cover that with the latest budget amendment, which was put in there to cover those costs. I think one of the projects was over by the French Twist, I'm sure you guys saw. And they're gonna put more planning of it, like I was talking to Mark, and he's pretty excited about that, so that looks really good.
Come spring thaw. More work come spring thaw, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. So that pretty much covers what I wanted to go over today. Is there any questions with the exciting Treasury report for January?
You're always minimizing your efforts, Craig, and like, I mean, that's fine if you want to do that, but none of us are in agreement when you do that. Your work is impeccable and timely and thorough, and you're always smiling, so.
But I did have one question, and maybe it's just like an educational thing for the public that are watching.
Sure.
So we got in, or at least I got in, the change for real estate taxes for the next 3 years. How does that impact the budget?
Well, I mean, moving forward, obviously, we're using those assessments and then calculating using the rate that we're gonna bill per $1,000, whatever, like the 30 cents. So that's obviously going to increase and help us have more revenue for the budget to come up with more projects. But
And does the whole town get that at the same time, or is it 1/3 of the town at a time? I just don't know.
that's a good question. I don't know if I'm aware.
I'm fairly certain it's the entire town that gets the assessment, but the assessment is phased in over a 3-year period.
Right.
So the tax bill doesn't go up all at once, it's staggered.
But then I guess Warfield, those would be a little different. I guess those properties, since they just kicked off.
Well, I think whatever's been assessed right now is what their assessed value is going to be. And
But then they're 3 years though. Will that be immediately the 3 years though? I think they get 1
Yeah,
year.
but there's no increase there because it's a new building. So
Right.
whatever it's assessed at when it comes on the tax rolls is just what it is until the reassessment comes across again.
Which is nice. That would be nice coming up. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Craig, anyone?
Yep, thanks, Craig.
Great, thanks, Craig.
Great pleasure.
Well, Chief, as if we haven't heard from you already this evening.
It's hard to follow that act.
It's time for the public safety report.
And because of you writing all those checks, you know, is how we do what we do. So very important to us. Keep the paychecks coming.
It's all about safety and quality of life and security.
It is, very
Thank you,
true.
Chief.
So we're going to talk about the PSR covering January 18th to February 7th. Instead of always just pointing out to you the numbers that you can see clearly, I actually have a kind of a new idea. Well, it's not my idea. You probably can figure out who this was. It's a citizen of our town who's also a volunteer, who has a lot of good ideas, and Joe, I didn't tell you about this, but it's not that big. She suggested that I should talk about crime trends and patterns, which is a very good idea. The problem with that is we don't have many crime trends and patterns here, which is a good thing for us.
That's a great idea. That's a great thing. I grew up in Detroit. We don't want patterns.
But I have this tool available to me that I get from the sheriff's office, because of course they have a crime analyst, but it talks about crime trends in the whole county. And so with your permission in the future, I'd like to just kind of touch on a few of those trends. Again, a lot of them don't apply to us, but it's always good to know what's going on in the county, because oftentimes if something's happening in Westminster, it could also be happening here. So there's really not a whole lot to talk about for this one. I can just give you one quick example of all the crimes that were reported throughout the whole county.
Excuse me, Chief, is this quarterly or?
No, this is
monthly?
actually every 2 weeks, I believe, they do this report. So she does a fantastic job. Her name is Christine Garvin. We often call upon her to help us with crime analysis type of situations, but she puts together a great product here. We're talking about all the crimes were reported in this period, which, again, I think it was the last 2 weeks. We're talking about eight commercial thefts was the biggest piece of the pie. So if you think about the whole pie, 8 commercial thefts, 3 non-commercial thefts, 3 non-commercial burglaries, and 2 thefts from motor vehicles. And then they break it down by all the different municipalities, and fortunately, again, for us, we did not report any of those incidents. They were all mostly, well, I better not say where they're all mostly from, but you can assume kind of where they were from, the largest population area in our county. But no, it's a very good tool. It even has density maps and temporal topology, stuff that I know, Mark, you'll eat up. And it talks about they let us know who's released from jail and whether they live here locally. So it's always good for us to know if somebody just got released from jail that's back in our community, what they were in jail for, and kind of keep an eye on that person or that residence. So it is a very good tool, and again, in the future, with your permission, I'd like to just touch on it briefly instead of having to read you the same numbers that you can see yourself. But if there are no questions about any of these numbers, I would like to point out a few other things real briefly. I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of the 15 incident reports that reported during this period, but there's some excellent police work there in these 15 reports. And this is proactive policing at its best. I'll just highlight a few of them real quickly. Officer Schlereth was, I don't know if you saw this, on January 18th, he was driving around in our new development across the street in Warfield, where the new homes are being built. And he sees, this was like 8 o'clock at night, sees a van driving around with 3 people in it, work type van. Thought it was suspicious, it's kind of late to be working, doing construction in the dark. So he stops the van, and as it turns out, they were 2 adults and 1 juvenile from Hyattsville who were there to steal. They were there to steal lumber. They admitted that they were there to take lumber. And we've had some incidents there in the past where lumber has been stolen. So it was because of Officer Schlereth's proactive policing and seeing something that was out of place and taking the effort to make a traffic stop that he prevented a theft from occurring. I just thought that was phenomenal police work. Again, 1 person was actually working there on site, so knew where the lumber was being kept. They took someone else's van to get here and didn't have a driver's license, none of them, and from Hyattsville. So great police work by Officer Schlereth. You'll also notice there was 2 incidents on here where, again, our patrol checks at Warfield have revealed continuing damage. Officer Schlereth, again, noticed 4 window panes broken out of the E building, and my ever reliable Officer Kirkner found, what was it? Where was it? Oh, it's damage to windows and the door on the cafeteria at the Warfield complex. So again, being out there on patrol, doing the patrol checks, looking for things out of place, you can't ask much more from your officers in that. One other quick example would be Officer Kirkner, actually two other quick examples. Officer Kirkner noticed the mailbox had been damaged on Calorama Road. I don't think Derek in his group did. But again, he noticed it before the residents even noticed it, you know? So he's out there on patrol looking for things and brought it to their attention. So phenomenal observation. And again, Officer Kirkner, this resulted in a DUI arrest, was out on patrol and saw a car that had front end damage, and he described it as one of the wheels was basically dragging as the car was driving down the road. We call that a clue in police work, right? Stopped the operator, and lo and behold, intoxicated, and had probably hit something somewhere. We're not quite sure what he hit, but again,
Mailbox?
maybe.
So it was about 24 hours later, though.
Put two and two together. But again, excellent work by all our officers. Leo mentioned the one case where the found wallet. I'm sure you all got a chuckle out of that one. There's a saying there somewhere, but don't lose your wallet if you have two well-made fake IDs from the state of Pennsylvania in your wallet, because when you come to retrieve your wallet, you're now going to get served with a criminal summons for false possession and use of a false government ID.
So they came back to retrieve it?
Of course. Put his wallet back and had
Professor Moriarty on it too, yeah.
it had some money in it, but
So the individual, the owner of the wallet, was not a Pennsylvania resident, or was, and one of them was?
was not a Pennsylvania resident. Had been, I guess, in the past, but was a Maryland resident. Was underage and had obtained two very well-made Pennsylvania driver's licenses.
So it's likely that one of those were used to
Gain access to a
gain access to
adult
the.
establishment.
Okay.
Probably.
Or adult beverages.
Yeah, thank you. I thank you for clarifying what I meant. Thank you.
Well, again, a list of 15 efforts that we all are grateful for. Thank you.
Very lucky to have a very good staff of officers here.
No joke.
Don't say it enough.
You know, well, before you go, one thing that I will say, so I always comment on the community policing, but today you were very transparent with the way that you do some of the policing, whether it be the officers having to go into harm's way, which is a reality that I don't even think most people totally understand how often that occurs. And then you also talked about how crime works even within our county, whether it's directly here or if it's just a little bit north of here, because we're in the south of the county, obviously. And then even with this, right, with the reports that you're talking about now, we talk about open government a lot, but you're showing it. And so I want to applaud your efforts in reference to what you're showing and say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Jeremiah, for your comments. It's thoughtful. So that brings us to, I think, just the last but not least, if I could get back to my screen, I'm quite sure it would tell me it's time to hear from our town manager. Is that right?
It doesn't say it on the.
Doesn't say that. Do you have anything to share with us before we get into council committee report?
Only just a very few brief updates. I did want to let everybody know, Craig already mentioned that our audit presentation is scheduled for March 14th. We'll let everybody know that the DSC annual report or their presentation is scheduled for our next meeting, February 28th. And then folks from the county utility division are going to be here on March 28th to give us an update on the water and sewer upgrades that are planned for Main Street and Springfield Avenue. So again, just keep those on your radar. Again, just keep everybody up to speed on the Warfield project. It was presented to the Planning Commission, or the text amendment, sorry. It was presented to the Planning Commission at their meeting last week. They will at least have another meeting in March before it will eventually come back before the council. Now that'll, whether or not that's going to be the very next meeting in March, depending on when the Planning Commission ultimately makes their decision or their recommendation to you, has yet to be seen. But probably sometime in March we will see that back in front of the council. And then the last thing is just a reminder that MML is scheduled for June 12th and the 15th. If you have not let us know yet that you're going to be attending, please do so sooner rather than later, because we got to make sure names are submitted to the hotels or they'll drop our rooms. So And that's all I have.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe, can I ask you a question? So I've been asked by a couple citizens in terms of responding to the text amendments that have been submitted to the Planning Commission. I've been asked by a couple citizens, where are they in that? Where is citizen comment in that process, and how can they become involved in terms of sharing their concerns or their opinions or support, whatever?
Typically, that happens when it comes back to council. Again, the Planning Commission looks at it from a very narrow point of view, whereas public opinion is really for this board or this council to take into account. The Planning Commission is looking at it simply from a standpoint of how does this amendment potentially affect the zone itself and our comprehensive plan. And that recommendation will obviously come back to council, so that'll be one of the pieces that you all will have to take into account once you're ultimately asked to make a decision on the text. So whenever it's scheduled to come back before council, or really anytime during public comments at a council meeting between now and then, would be an opportunity for the public to come in.
So any time between now and then, they could come in the public comment?
Absolutely.
And then there was another question that I had received in terms of written. If someone was not able to come in, were they able to address something in writing? And what's the time frame for that to both the mayor and the council?
Yeah, and again, anytime any resident or somebody that's concerned about the text amendment, anytime they want to submit something in writing, we'll happily accept it and make sure it's distributed to the council whenever it's received. There is no technically open or closed period at this time, because we don't have that recommendation back from Planning Commission yet to schedule like when the public hearing is officially opened. But again, because it is out there and it's known, we're happy to accept any of those comments whenever.
Thank you.
And could I just add a couple of things in reference to that update, Joe? So one of the reasons why it's not back before the council is because we received written documentation at the meeting. So
From the petitioner.
From the petitioner. We got it on the same day that we were there. No one had an opportunity to read through that information. We did have some information prior to the meeting, which we obviously read through, and we had some questions in reference to it. But then there was more that came in that evening. So some of you know that, some of you don't, because some of you were there. And then the other thing that I would say is that it's important to, if you're interested, and now I'm talking more to the public, if you're interested in making comments, to take a look at the percentages different between the planned employment center that the town has in its current zoning versus what is being proposed. In some of the documentation, the difference could yield upwards of 350 or so, or maybe even a little bit more than that, residential units in the Warfield area. And so altogether, rough ballpark around, if we move forward with this, and I'm not sure where it will land at this time, but if we were to move forward with it, it could be an extra 1,400 people in our community. And so I just put that out there. That did all come up in the Planning Commission, but I wanted to share it with everybody here because not all of you had the opportunity to go to the meeting. I don't know if you watched it or not. And I want the public to be aware of it in a couple of different forums in order to be able to provide whatever feedback that you have. Thanks.
Thanks for that, too.
Joe, I actually did watch it on Facebook. I think I brought it up to you. Was there did you reach out to the CMC about the audio on that?
We have talked to the CMC about it, and again, it's just we don't exactly know what caused that issue. We have an idea, but
Okay.
What happened?
The audio is just not, the quality's not
the
good on
audio and the
Facebook.
recording, there was like a constant almost clicking noise that you heard. And it's not like me, like clicking a pen.
Yeah. It's like somebody's actually pushing a mute button every like 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, it just seemed a little strange. So no resolution to that yet.
I don't think so.
I mean, it's just difficult to listen to, that's all.
Yeah, we think it had something to do with how we plug a computer in to display things, and it messed with something in our tech side. So.
Just wondering.
Yep.
I guess I'll have to come up next time.
Question for Joe. Joe, in my notes from Julie from the DSC, she mentions something about the liquor license resolution for the events. She thought that was going to be on for tonight.
That'll be on the 28th.
On the 28th.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll do all that at the same meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else for staff? So that brings us to, thank you, Joe, by the way. That brings us to council committee reports. You pretty much gave us ours.
Yeah,
from the Planning
the things that
Commission.
came up at Planning Commission were the new zone map, Chairman Enslow's retirement from that board, and then also the detailed discussion in reference to Warfield. And I would say that there'll be at least one more, and I say at least one more discussion that we'll have with Warfield. And I would highly recommend that all of us listen in on those meetings if you have an opportunity.
So, hey, Jeremiah,
Yeah.
I do have a question. Did you guys receive all the information you need at the meeting? I mean, it was kind of unclear. And I know you didn't have a chance to read it, but did you have a chance to read it between now and today, or?
I have not read through all of it as of yet. What I anticipate happening is that it'll answer some of the questions, but maybe not everything.
Okay.
And then we'll continue to have the discussion. I don't think that the petitioner was able to get through their entire presentation. And the way that it was set up in the discussion is that they had more to say as well as we navigate forward. So in order to be fair to them, and then obviously us getting all the information we need, that's why I think it's going to be at least one more meeting. We're also trying to, I mean, I don't know how long the next planning commission will be, but we're trying to do it in digestible chunks. Again, this is a significant change to the zoning, and that's just, as Joe mentioned, the one sliver that the planning commission is looking at. It's a very significant change.
So was there questions submitted? I know that there was verbal questions asked, but did you guys do a formal, like, email
I
question
haven't
answer?
seen one yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I mean, I did listen to it, so I was just wondering. Thanks.
And I can just add to that, there was a message that went out to the planning commissioners just to let them know that if we have all of our questions from the planning commission by this Friday, we can submit that to the applicant, and then hopefully they can answer all of those questions at the meeting on the 7th.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Joe. And my only comment about the petition for the zoning text amendment is that, again, for the public's knowledge, is that the Warfield property, as we've been referring to it for many years now, is only one part of the entire planned employment campus district zone, or I should say planned employment district zoning area. So there's a 30 some odd acre parcel adjacent to and west of the property, and I'm staring at our map over there, but I don't need to be doing that. It's 30 acre parcel west of Warfield's property, and that too falls within the same zoning. And so any text amendment to that zone that is approved will impact the entirety of the zone, so not just Warfield, but the now vacant, undeveloped 30 plus acre parcel.
Thank you for raising that. It's a really important point to this discussion. Thanks.
Sure. President Carter, anything for us from the Historic District Commission?
No, and I don't know if there's going to be a meeting the fourth Tuesday of the month. There. Okay, we will have an HDC meeting the fourth Tuesday of the month, 7 o'clock, and I believe that will be via Zoom, and you'll get notification to let you know what's going to be on the agenda.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone to my right?
So Spark met and has developed the calendar for 2022.
Fun stuff coming up.
Yeah, we've
Right,
got
all
a
right.
scavenger. We're going to do both an Easter egg hunt and the scavenger egg hunt that seem to be really popular. There'll be 2 park cleanups, 5 movies, 4 musics in the park, the Let Freedom Ring parade on July 2nd, 2 fall cleanups, and then Santa's arrival on December 3rd.
Wow, that's a busy calendar.
My
When,
gosh.
Mark your calendar.
do you have a date for that first spring cleanup at your disposal?
April 23rd,
April 23rd.
and there's a rain date of April 30th.
Okay, so the April 23rd one is almost in line with help me. Earth Day. Thank you.
I think that's why they do that.
Yes,
yeah.
that's great. 423, easy to remember.
Yep.
Okay,
And then I have an update from the Trauma Informed Commission.
please.
So I've been appointed to co-chair the implementation and TA subcommittee. So in terms of recommending, there's a training group, there's a couple other groups that have been kind of identified as subgroups to direct. So I'll be helping put together the plan of how we recommend the state implement. And then in that process, just wanted the council to be aware that I found out that not only Baltimore City has, through proclamation and the town council and the mayor become a trauma-informed city, Frederick has an initiative as well. In terms of, and that started actually in private citizens outside, but with the support of now the mayor and the council. So to be trauma responsive city. So that's what's going on right now in terms of that work.
Thank you, Lisa.
No, I'm good.
DSC, we're not having a formal board meeting this month. We've got a retreat on Saturday, February 26th for 4 to 6 hours, as I roll my eyes. Didn't mean to do that.
Well, anything that says 4 to 6 hours deserves an eye roll. I will say that. Hopefully it's closer to 4 for everyone.
I hope so.
Hopefully it's closer to 4.
So, we did finally hire an event coordinator, so I'd like everyone to welcome Jackson Frazier to our group. We think he'll be great for helping coordinate and set up all our events. There was a Keep Sykesville Beautiful art contest that was done through Piney Ridge Elementary, and I figured I'd pass these around. These are some of the entries from some of the kids. Julie and I are particularly impressed with the little Freddie Mercury one that's there on the right.
Are these bookmarks?
This is part of the Keep Sykesville Beautiful art contest that was in partnership with Piney Ridge Elementary and their art teacher, Miss Evans, who had them draw entries to be selected as stickers for the cigarette pole receptacles that are going to be going out throughout the town. So that's an example of just some of them there they're passing around. And there'll be presentations made in March for the 4th and 5th graders. We submitted a grant application through Heritage Area of the Civil War for interpretive signage. The facade improvement applications have been completed and collected, and they're under review. Again, we're planning our retreat for the 26th and gearing up for Art and Wine Festival in May. That's it.
Again, sounds like a very dull 2022. All right,
I
great.
had one go back.
Okay,
I had to resign my role on the legislative committee with MML. Very regrettably, due to some work activities I'm doing in my day job, I am unable to go to the Wednesday meetings. There's a lot of ad hoc discussions that are going on in a particular thing that I'm involved with at work, so I had to resign my role. I want to let everyone know.
Sorry to hear that.
So anyone here at this table or listening in other Carroll County municipalities wishing to take on another role within MML.
That would be great for someone who's retired.
It really would. Who likes to be called retired guy? All right.
I think his wife was looking for some things to fill
keep
his
him busy?
calendar.
Yeah, I thought so too. All right, so this evening, and that, anyone else, are we good with? Okay. This evening we are going to have an executive or a closed session. And that is being proposed to be closed pursuant to the general provisions of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Section 3-305B, number 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. This evening specifically, that matter is Warfield contract discussions. So at this time, being no other public business, is there a motion to go into executive session so that we can ask the members of our public to exit the chambers? Motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are about to go into closed executive session. Thank you, guys, and we'll let CMC tune off and. Thank you guys for coming.
I'm thinking that this is